Okay, so I want to show you how easy it is to vacuum seal. First, you're going to need a vacuum sealer. You're going to need supplies like bags. This is a roll of bag here. Now, I'm going to show you this. This is Mylar bags, which you're probably familiar with, but you don't need this for vacuum sealing, but I'm going to show you how to use that for storage. And then you have, this is the roll of vacuum seal bags, but this is a pre-made vacuum seal bag. And you can also use jars to vacuum seal, and I'll show you that as well. It's very simple. Here, let's see. So the first thing you're going to need is to decide what is it that you're wanting to vacuum seal. So if you want to vacuum seal, for instance, beans, you can. If you want to vacuum seal pasta or any number of things, I showed you guys a few things already that I've vacuum sealed, and even things that are already packaged that I vacuum sealed. Like it was packaged in a like the flour that I had in there, it was a small package of flour, or the smaller like package of cornbread, basically cornmeal, and I just vacuum sealed the whole thing, and it was hard as a brick, so that's how I knew it was compact and all that good stuff. Something that's not going to crush when you vacuum seal it, because there's a lot of air being sucked out and there's some pressure being applied to the bag. So if it's not going to break easily, then you can use that. I would not vacuum seal certain pastas. I'll show you how to do that with the Mylar bags. You can. I do with one particular pasta. It is a thick macaroni noodle. I can vacuum seal those without them crushing, without any issue. However, spaghetti might be a different issue because it may poke a hole in your bag. My lasagna in there is thicker and it could possibly crush or poke the bag, because pasta usually has sharp edges. So I would use this for that. So a few other things that you might need, I'll show you that in just a moment. So you can vacuum seal this way. Basically, this is a vacuum sealer. There's all different types. This is a very common one, a food saver. I like it. I don't like this attachment. It was really hard to find an adapter to use it. And basically, this is if you want to vacuum seal a jar like this. You would not use this to use the can. For instance, if you want to do like tomatoes, or like you want to can like a jar of, pickles or whatever, and store them on your shelf, for instance. This is not a safe method of doing that. This is for dry canning. For instance, if I use this particular jar and I want to take the oxygen back out, I'm going to use my vacuum sealing method for jars. If I have, for instance, you guys probably saw in there, I showed you the powdered milk. I use the vacuum sealer for that. If you have like baking soda that you're going to keep for a long period of time, I would use a vacuum sealer for that. So those are things for dry goods. You can put pasta in a jar. I probably wouldn't. I mean, you can store it a lot more effectively in other ways, and a lot more in other ways, but you can if you want. You can vacuum seal like nuts, things like that if you want. You can either dry vacuum seal it, dry can it, or you can use one of these methods. So basically, you're going to decide what kind of bag you want. Now, there are two bagging methods. You can buy them already pre-made, and that's fine, but you're going to want a variety of bag sizes, because this is only going to be 8 by 12 all day long. Can't adjust it, can't make it longer or anything like that. So, but a lot of what I needed was this size, so I went ahead and purchased it. I got WeVac. It was, at the time I bought it a couple years ago, it was a good price, so I went ahead and got it, and I use it for some things. I use it for quite a bit of things, for my beans and lentils and all that. But there are other things that are bigger that I wanted to vacuum seal, and so I used the vacuum seal roll. Here's a closer look at a vacuum seal roll. Now, this is what's in here, but I have a vacuum seal roll. As you can see, there's an open end here, and it's a roll. If I want to use this, I'm going to have to cut it, cut it this way, that's going to leave me 2 sides open, right? So what I would do is after I cut it, and I'm going to use my pre-made package. For example, let's just pretend this is open. I would use my pre-made, I'm just using this as an example, but let's say this is open. I would take it, forgive my finger in the way of the camera. I would take it, put it right in here, line it up, close it here. I'm going to close it there to where it says I can operate. Storing just basically locks this in place so that it doesn't open easily. Operate means that I'm going to use it. And so let's just pretend I have it plugged in. I don't think I have this straight. You want to make sure it's pretty straight. And I'm kind of doing this at an angle, so please forgive me. But yeah, operate. And then there's a couple of settings. If I want to just do seal, because I'm only going to be sealing in the bottom of my bag, right? Because both ends are open and I want to put something in it. So I'm just sealing the bottom part of the bag. You can do that. And then once you seal the bottom of the bag, you have a seal on it. Then you're going to, the smartest thing to do would be to write whatever it is first before you put anything in it. Write the contents, write the date that you vacuum sealed it, and maybe even write the expiration date. Why does that matter? Let's say your expiration date was 2025 and you vacuum sealed this in sometime in May 2024 or whatever, and you find this in 2027. You want to know approximately between these two dates, how long is it? Is it 6 months? Is it a year? Because that's about how long this is going to be good for once you open it. Once you vacuum seal it, you're kind of freezing it in time, and it'll stay in here for a long time. I probably wouldn't go past 4 or 5 years, but depending on what it is, it may still be just fine. Most things that are dry are not necessarily going to go bad. They'll still be good, and you can tell if it doesn't smell right when you take it out. Now, another good thing about vacuum sealed packages is you can use this to vacuum seal meat. That is pretty cool because you can get your meat. You can actually put the seasoning on the meat. You can vacuum seal. Once you get it, you label it, put it whatever. Then you're going to vacuum seal the top. You're going to use this method. You're going to do the vac and seal method, meaning it's going to pull all of the air out. It's going to be completely airless. You want to make sure that there's no pockets of air behind your product and all that. And it's going to pull all of the air through, and it will seal it for you so that it will be completely sealed. Now, the cool thing about vacuum sealed meat, and vegetables if you like. I'm a vegetarian, pescatarian. I could do this for fish if I wanted. The cool thing is you have the option to do this. These bags, and make sure the bag that you get says that you can do all of this, okay? On my box here, it says that that it's BPA free, it's microwave safe, it's dishwasher safe, and it's freezer safe. I don't know why you put it in the dishwasher, but if you want to, you could. So that lets me know that it's heat safe and it's microwave safe. So if I want to cook something in the microwave with this, I can if I wanted to. Now, there's also something else that I find cool about this particular product. Microwave, freeze, refrigerate, and it has something called sous vide. And I'm saying that, I'm from Texas. I might not be saying it right, but I think that's right. Sous, I know that's sous, and this is vide or vita or whatever. The cool thing about that is you can get your meat, your vegetables, whatever it is, put your seasoning in here, vacuum seal it, put this in the freezer. When you're ready to use it, you can put this in a boiling pot of water if you like, or you can vacuum it. Sous vide means I'm going to put this whole package with the contents in, sealed up, and I'm going to put it in a pot of boiling water, and it will cook it right in this. Have you guys ever seen this? Here's something that's similar, but it's not exactly the same. You ever seen the rice that it's like boil in bag? Similar concept. Only difference is that one is not airtight. It has little holes because the water has to get in to get moisture into the rice, right? But you can boil your rice in a bag. Back in the 90s, I think I used to do that. I don't do it anymore. I don't boil anything in plastic. So I personally, even though this is BP free, I don't do it, but you can. It's rated for that. It's totally up to you. We try our best not to use any plastics in extreme heat situation. Yeah, we could microwave. Sorry, we could freeze it. We don't. We don't do anything that needs to be frozen. I just don't. I just haven't thought about it. I don't have really a need for it. Once I put things in my freezer, we go through it in about a year, and it's fine. But yeah, these are ways that you can use these bags. It's really, really convenient. Even if you're not trying to store up massive amounts of food, you can do it. But if you are trying to store up massive amounts of food, you should try vacuum sealing it and then freezing it. It will last a lot longer and protect your food from freezer burn. So another thing, let's say you have pasta. Pasta can pierce one of these, except for my thick macaroni pasta that I bought. And I use that all the time because it's easy for me to store. But I also have lasagna as well, which I probably need to make some here pretty soon. But in my lasagna, and I think I showed you that in another video, the lasagna, I put it in one of these Mylar bags. Mylar bags are really cool because you can heat seal them as well if you like. I recommend heat sealing your Mylar bags. But before you do, these particular ones you cannot use in here. So how am I going to freeze time for my lasagna? I'm going to freeze time with my lasagna by putting my lasagna in here. First, I'm going to label it lasagna and the date that I am putting it in here. And I don't put expiration dates because if I open it, I'm going to use that lasagna like right then and there. It's not going to stay in the storage bag. So I'm going to put lasagna and the date that I stored it, because if it's 10 years, it may not be good. Plus, if I store lasagna this month, and I store more lasagna 6 months from now, I'm going to use the oldest lasagna first, the one that I vacuum sealed vacuum sealed first. I'm going to use that first. It's good to have your dates on there. So I put lasagna, or I put my spaghetti, or you can put beans, or you can put powdered potatoes, because we do store up powder. I have an amazing recipe to rehydrate some potatoes and make it taste like it's fresh, because I don't use any dehydrated potatoes or mashed potato mix that has any chemicals whatsoever, so it doesn't taste weird. I get some butter in there, some garlic, some sea salt or whatever, or some Himalayan salt, and I work it up and it tastes really good. It tastes just like fresh mashed potatoes when I finish it. But again, I don't buy the ones that have any chemicals. That's my personal preference. You can if you want. I don't. I get it. It's purely dehydrated potatoes, and I buy it, specifically looked for it and bought it. So whatever it is that you want to put in, you can put a whole bunch of malto meal in here. It doesn't matter. Oatmeal, whatever you want to do. You don't have to vacuum seal it if you don't want. You can put it in one of these, is what I'm saying. But if you do, you're going to want to get rid of the oxygen, just like this does. So how do I get rid of the oxygen to keep the food from further decomposing, or not even decomposing so much? These are dry products we're talking about. How to keep them from going rancid, or how to preserve them well. I do that by using oxygen absorbers. And so what I'll do is I'll grab 1 or 2 oxygen absorbers and I'll put it in there, and I will quickly seal it. Like as soon as I do it, I'll go ahead and seal it. Once this, actually, you can feel it working. If you open up oxygen absorbers and you cannot feel it heat up in your hand, they're bad. They went bad on you. I'm going to tell you how to store your oxygen absorbers too. This, you see that? It's not going bump, 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 because it is sealed. I had to seal it to make sure that this stayed good. But I put a couple of oxygen absorbers in there if you want. I've done the same thing by getting, let's pretend this is a 5-gallon bucket, like the kind that you get from Lowe's or Home Depot. You can even get food grade buckets, which I have done for some products that I knew was like flour and sugar, things that I knew was going to touch my food is going to be touching it. I went ahead and got food safe buckets. If I had, like rice, for instance, I had it in a bag and I put that bag inside of the 5-gallon bucket, then it's inside of its own container inside of that. So I did not get a food grade for that. It saved a little money. I put the whole big plastic package of rice. I opened it up and then I put it in there. I did not put moisture absorbers in there because it would dry it out so much to where the rice is inedible. Same thing with beans. You don't want to use silica packs for beans and for rice. And so some people don't realize that. You don't want to do that because there is a tiny bit of moisture in it. And over time, as it dehydrates so much to where if you put a silica pack in it, it'll dehydrate so much to where it's inedible. You'll open it up 3 years later and it's no good. Beans and rice are really good for about a year, maybe a year and a half or so. That's the reason why we will vacuum seal them, because we want to freeze time for them to make sure they don't lose any more moisture and they stay good just like the day I put them in. And we're doing really good with that. If it just sits on your shelf, it'll get hard and inedible. So with my oxygen absorbers, what do I do to keep these from sucking up all the air that's in here? And then when I try to go use it for something, it doesn't work. Like, it doesn't have an infinite use. It's a one-shot thing. What I do is whenever I open these, I put it in the bag, seal it real quick, and then I'll come back later. I'll seal it because it has like a Ziploc here. Then I'll come back and I will vacuum seal it with one of these. Sorry, my hand's in the way. I'm my own camera person. So with one hand, I will show you. So I put this contraption down on it and put this part in here, which this actually is not a good attachment. So I don't use this actual one. I use something else. But let's pretend that it does work. And you put it in here and you put the other end on here. And I say I will press vac and seal. Of course, it's not going to seal anything but it will pull all of the air out of this jar for me, to the point to where I don't even need a lid I don't even need one of these rings right here, because the lid will be on so tight and vacuum sealed so tight that I won't even be able to lift the lid, this inner ring in here. These are comprised of two different rings. Let me show you. Two different things. If you're not familiar with a mason jar lid is, thank you, I actually needed you to move. It's comprised of two different lids. This is the part that you're putting the vacuum sealer on, actually, not this. You'll put the vacuum seal on here, put it all the way on there. You'll put this piece in there. It'll suck all the air out of it. And then once you take it off, which I don't know if I can do with one hand, that little ring that I put on there should stay. Once it's on there, it should stay. I stuck it in there, so I have to take it out later. But just a demonstration. And that's what I did with this. So as soon as I close that really quick, I'll come back and I will reseal this. As soon as you take one of these oxygen absorbers out, it will start to heat up because it's interacting with the oxygen in the room or whatever package you have it in. So that's why you want it to, I'll put two in there just to make sure it's working well. It'll heat up a little bit, not super hot, but it'll heat up a little bit, and it will actually remove all of the oxygen. I may put one in the bottom, one toward the top, something like that, just to make sure it's getting all of the oxygen, or put one on one side, one on another, depending on what the contents is. I may put one at the bottom, at the very, very bottom, put one at the very top, what have you. There are times when I put oxygen absorbers in with one of these. You can do it. I mean, you don't really have to, but I've done it before. So every now and then I'll open up a package of beans that I have and see there's an oxygen absorber that was in it. Yeah, and so that's pretty much what happens. That's how you'll vacuum seal. And this is how you'll use your Mylar bags as well. And let's see, is there anything else that I want to show you? Yes, there's one other thing. There's two different kinds of rings for mason jars, and I'm going to show you more on the supplies for canning, but I do dry can. I'm going to put some links in here so you'll know what you can and what you can't vacuum seal, what's safe and what isn't safe. Like, for instance, they tell you not to vacuum seal cheese. You can vacuum seal and put something in the refrigerator. You can vacuum seal it, put it in the freezer, not the oven, but you can put it in the freezer. Why this is dishwasher safe, I don't know. Why would somebody put it in the dishwasher? Maybe they want to clean it out and reuse it. I don't know. And then reseal it? I'm not sure. I wouldn't do it. But here's a hint that I would tell you. They just said it's dishwasher safe, so I'm like, okay. But here's something I would tell you though. After you vacuum seal anything, come back the next day and make sure that the vacuum seal took. It may take about a day. If there's a tiny pinhole in your bag, and it happens all the time, go back and identify what bag got the pinhole. There's two things you can either do. Either you can say, well, they have a pinhole in it, so I'm going to use it first. Like, I'm going to just go ahead and use it first, right? Or you can go back and put it in a different bag, a new bag, and reseal it in a different bag and throw the bad one away. So there's a couple ways that you can do that, and that's what I've done. But I want to just show you, there's two types of lids for a mason jar. There is a regular lid like this one. Most of the mason jars, you guys are probably used to a regular lid, and it could be attached to something that's kind of this size. This is a wide mouth, but this is a regular lid. It'll go on all kinds of them, even ones that are this size and this size. You can find regular mouth lids. So when you get your mason jars, just pay attention to if it's regular or wide mouth. It's pretty standard across the board. You can't mess it up. You're either going to get one or the other. I have both. And so depending on what it is that I'm vacuum sealing, I might use the regular lid, or I might use this wide mouth lid that will go on it. So this regular lid one will go on this one, and this wide mouth lid will go on this one when I'm dry canning. So just so you know the difference, you can find wide mouth in almost anything. So this is a 16 ounce or a pint, and this is a quart size mason jar. I would not get the no name ones because you can't freeze those well, but Ball Pure is P-U-R or P-U-R-E or something. And there's another one, Kerr or what, K-E-R-R. Those three are going to be good ones that I mean, I can put this in as long as I leave room for a liquid, I can put it in the freezer and it's not going to break. I've used cheaper ones that I found online. Every single one of them broke. So I always go back to Ball, or I think it's Kerr, K-E-R-R, and Pure is another one. I really don't buy that one, but I know it's a good one. So I stick with those 2 or 3 brands that are going to be rated for freezing liquids and all that. That's another thing you can do. Most of my yeast, I have some yeast that's up here, but most of the yeast that I have, I stick it in the freezer in a mason jar. I vacuum seal it and stick it in the freezer. But eventually I end up using it again. There are some standalone dry vacuum cleaners. There's some dry vacuum sealers for jars. Not dry, but standalone vacuum sealers for jars that you can put on for under $20. And I actually have one downstairs. I forgot to bring it up here. But yeah, you can do that without using one of these. And you can actually vacuum seal that, because after I use something, I want to re-vacuum seal it without bringing out the big machine. So I just have that down there. It's battery operated, or you charge it or whatever, and you're able to use it and reseal things when you use it. So this started off looking like, I knew there was something I forgot to tell y'all. It started off in a little bag like this. I just love my camera angles and everything. So it started off in something like this. This is actually vacuum sealed as well. These are oxygen absorbers. They have different varying strengths of oxygen absorbers. Once you open that up, you immediately need to put it in a jar and vacuum seal that jar, because all of them will start interacting with the oxygen, and all of them, you'll come back 6 months later, 3 months later, a year later, and none of them are any good. I know every time I go in here, I seal it so quickly that every time I put them in there, they're good. I may even take one out to test it. Let's say I put a couple of them in one of these. I'll take an extra one out just to test it, and if it gets hot, then I know that everything else in the jar is also still good. That's just kind of like a little tester. I'll let that one be the sacrificial lamb for the day, just to test them, especially if I've had them for a while. And I've had these for a while, and because I pull the oxygen out so quickly, I don't have a problem. And I only use these probably once a year when I do like a big vacuum sealing project. So that's just giving you guys a lot of information on how to set this up and get it done. It's so easy.